So I've been missing Patricia Polacco lately, so I'm going back to another of her books that we haven't heard yet, and it is called Babushka, Baba Yaga. And we've heard a lot about Babushka, which is the way that you say grandmother or grandma in Russian, because Patricia's mother's family was from Russia. And so that's what she called her grandmother, Babushka. This story is not true. It is fiction, but I think that you'll hear that a lot of the ideas that Patricia Polacco gets for the story come from spending all that time with her grandma. We've read a lot of stories about her with her grandma, and so it helps you to look in and go, yeah, I can tell that this story is fiction. I can tell that it is not true, but I can also tell where the ideas come from. And lots of writers use real things that happen in the world to create stories that don't really happen in the world. That's just, we get ideas from all different places, and lots of times we get ideas from real life. And so that's what I want you to think about in this story, Babushka, Baba Yaga. And if you look at the cover, you can already tell it's fiction by looking at the cover. Look at her ears. Look what she's holding in her hand. So I hope you like it. She was the last of her kind, a creature of legends, a being of the forest. She ruled her woods alone. She ate alone and slept alone. Her loneliness made more bitter by the stories that were told about her, stories of the terrible Baba Yaga. And so she watched sadly from afar as people of the nearby village celebrated the seasons of their lives together, kept holidays together, and celebrated at weddings. Most of all, they pleasured in the birth of their young, which means they celebrated and were so happy when a new baby was born. How her arms ached just to hold a little one, even if only for a moment. How she longed, which means she really wanted to have a child of her own, but she was old now and knew that it would never be. Many mornings, the babushkas, the grandmothers, gathered by her forest with their grandchildren. I wish I had a grandchild, she would say to herself. And then one day, as she came close to the dacha of one of the babushkas, when she came close to the home of one of the grandmothers, she saw some of her clothes drying on the clothesline. I shall borrow those, thought Baba Yaga. I will be a babushka instead of a Baba Yaga. She looked at the reflection of herself in the stream. I shall have to scrub the forest off my skin, cut my nails, comb my hair, but my ears, she said with a sigh. What will I do about my ears? And then she remembered that babushkas always wore scarves. She carefully dressed herself. Yes, she said with glee, I look just like a babushka. She bade the creatures of the forest a fond goodbye. That's a fancy way of saying she said goodbye to all of her friends in the forest, including the fairies and the animals. I'm going to the village, she beamed, which just meant she was super happy when she went. She's excited about the possibility of becoming a babushka, a grandmother. As she entered the village, she was warmly greeted by the other babushkas sitting under the shade of a tree in the center of the square. Come, sister, sit with us, they said. Baba Yaga smiled inside. No one recognized her. They showed her a brand new baby that had been born just that morning. This is my new grandchild, one proud babushka chirped. And this is my Masha. Isn't she dear? One after another, the babushkas shared their babies with her. Just then, Natasha and her little son Victor passed by them. One of the babushkas whispered, Too bad. That little one has no babushkas to care for him while his mother works. As they went on admiring the other babies, Baba Yaga walked right after Natasha and Victor. She followed them down the road and into their little house. Old one, Natasha greeted her cheerfully. How is it that you are here? Perhaps you can help me, Baba Yaga said. I am new in the village and quite alone. I need a place to stay. I can cook, clean, and take care of your son for you. I have no money to pay you, Natasha said. I need no money. All I will need is a place to rest my old head and perhaps a little food. Then you shall indeed stay with us, old one. I kiss your eyes and I hold you in my heart, Baba Yaga said happily. And stay she did. So she followed the mother and her son into their house and told them, for a place to stay, I can take care of your child. And the mother said yes. Oh, how happy she was. When Natasha went to work in the morning, she and Victor cleaned the little house together. When all of the tasks were done, Baba Yaga took Victor to the edge of the woods. This was her favorite part of the day. She pulled Victor onto her lap and she cradled him there, and she told him wondrous tales and legends, stories of the great forest. She sang him songs that he had never heard before. Then they would just sit there together and daydream without any words at all. As time passed, their love for each other grew and grew. Baba Yaga took as much pride in Victor's life as a real grandmother would. She was well loved in return. And she had earned her place with all of the other grandmothers under the shade tree in the village square. Baba Yaga was happy and content with her new life. Then one day, as the Babushkas gathered, they started telling stories to the children. One spoke of Ivan Tsarevich, the grave wolf and the firebird. Another told the tale of Sister Alyanushka and Brother Ivanushka, and they all laughed. Then one of them rose from her seat, her eyes got narrow, her voice hissed, and she unfolded the legend or story of the horrible, wicked Baba Yaga. She is mean to children, said the woman. She flies through the air on an old stump and casts bad magic spells. She comes out of the forest and scares children in the middle of the night, another one said. She is not pretty. She's a hag, and she is not nice. And if you don't behave, she'll come to get you, one said to Victor, and he hugged close to Baba Yaga. So I need you to understand what's happening. All of the other babushkas are telling stories, and they're telling stories about different people, and they tell a story about Baba Yaga. They do not know that that is Baba Yaga. They do not know that she is so sweet and kind, and that she loves children so much, and that she's taking such good care of Victor. They are saying really mean things about her, and they don't know that it's her. That night when she put Victor to bed, he cried himself to sleep. Baba Yaga tried to calm him, but her own heart was heavy and very sad. There was only one thing to do: go back to her home in the forest before Victor learned who she really was. She left a note for Victor and his mother saying, I kiss your eyes and hold you in my heart, my beloved ones. I will never forget your kindness. Signed, your Babushka. She left, never to come back. For a very long time, Victor went to the edge of the forest almost every day. It helped him remember his Babushka, whom he missed so. And then one day as he sat, he saw yellow eyes peering at him from the deep blackness of the forest. When he could make out the shapes that went with the eyes, he saw that the eyes belonged to wolves. He screamed for help, but he was soon surrounded by wolves. The villagers came running, but the wolves snapped at them and snarled when the villagers tried to get close to Victor. Please, his mother cried, someone help. At that very moment, the trees parted and out of the forest crashed a fearsome figure, which means someone that was scaring the people, snarling and gnashing its teeth at the wolves. The Baba Yaga, the crowd screamed. The creature eyed them menacingly as it sprang like a cat at the wolves. The wolves scattered and ran, And then the creature moved closer to the child, who was howling with fright. So Victor's very scared. There were wolves that were trying to hurt him. And then this figure, a character, a creature that we don't know who it is yet, came out, and all of the people started yelling that it was Baba Yaga. Now that creature is going up to Victor, and he is scared. When the gnarled hands reached for the boy, his mother screamed. A voice from the crowd said, "The Baba Yaga's going to take him!" As the creature snatched the child from the ground, the villagers got more scared. Now remember who took care of Victor when he was a baby. It was the Baba Yaga. Nobody knows that. With a loud smack, the creature kissed the child and then smiled through eyes that were brimming with tears. The weathered arms held the boy close and rocked him so gently. Although she didn't look the same, Victor knew very quickly that warm hug well. "Babushka," Victor cried, and he hugged her back. There was a great celebration in the village that night for a very unusual babushka. There were flowers, bread, and salt. Songs were sung. Dances were danced. One of the babushkas moved close to her and took Baba Yaga's hands and called out, "Those who judge one another on what they hear or see and not on what they know of them in their hearts are fools indeed." "Hear, hear," the mayor sang out as everyone cheered. So this is important too. When they realized that Baba Yaga had saved Victor from the wolves, they all changed their ideas about what they had heard about Baba Yaga. They said, the one babushka stood up and said, "It is not smart to decide if someone is good or bad based on what you hear or based on what you see." She said, "People who do that are fools," which means they are not smart. So the lesson here was, you don't say things that are hurtful or mean about other people when you don't know them. You don't know their hearts. You don't know what kind of people they are. You don't say those things based on what you see or based on what you hear from another person. You decide by knowing people and hearing who they are. Baba Yaga smiled and accepted with grace their tributes, which means she was happy. She wasn't hurt anymore. She wasn't upset by the things that they had said before. She was happy that they knew her heart and they knew how good she was. For the rest of her days, she kissed many eyes and held scores of hearts in her good keeping. That means lots and lots of people loved her. She was spoken of in the highest regard and well loved. From that time on, she was known as Babushka Baba Yaga. And so the most important lesson you take away from that book is the one that the babushka said at the end, when she said, "You don't judge people by the way they look or by the things that you hear about them. You get to know them so that you can know that their hearts are good. And it doesn't matter what they look like or what you've heard. All that matters is your experience." So that's Babushka Baba Yaga. And then, because there is some magical element involved in that, and some Baba Yaga lives in the forest with all of the forest creatures. This poem is not super related to the story, but it talks about a special language that might have existed in someone's imagination, or maybe long, long ago. You decide. It's called forgotten language. "Once I spoke the language of the flowers. Once I understood each word the caterpillar said. Once I smiled in secret at the gossip of the starlings," those are birds, "and shared a conversation with the housefly in my bed. Once I heard and answered all the questions of the crickets and joined the crying of each falling, dying flake of snow. Once I spoke the language of the flowers." How did it go? How did it go? So that's why it's called the forgotten language, because they forgot how to speak it. So I hope you liked the story, one of my most favorites, and I hope you liked the poem. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.